Let me tell you a story. It's the story of a girl who accidentally walked into an old wardrobe that turned out to be a gateway into a snow-covered world of eternal winter. Yeah, I know you know the story of Lucy Pevensey and her journey to saving Narnia. But hang on, what I'm going to tell you today is not a book review. Hi, I'm Katya, artist and author walking the way of the crane, and today I'd love to tell you what do the lion, the witch, and the wardrobe have to do with the thing I want to do before I die. The Lucy from my story entered Narnia, spent a cozy evening with Mr. Tumnus, came back home, and she did not set foot back into Narnia ever again. And that Lucy Pevensey is me. And maybe if you ever missed out on an opportunity that could have changed your life in a very big way and later regretted it, it is also you. 20 years ago, I graduated from a linguistic university and was hired by a media company. I was going to take my first ever interview, and the person I was going to meet was Irina Kozikova, author and director of animated movies. So the kind of movies her team was shooting is called cutout animation, which basically means that you use pieces of paper to build characters and sets, and you shoot a movie one frame at a time. So I don't know what comes to your mind when you hear animation studio. Maybe you think about technology packed and fancy software filled kind of places, like the one that made Blue Eye Samurai, or maybe you imagine elaborate 3D sets, like in Aardman Animations that made this series on Wallace and Gromit. But the studio in which I met Irina was none of that. It was a simple room with no natural lighting. There were just desks put along the walls, and in the middle of the room there was a funny iron contraption that looked like a rack with glass sheets on it. So we talked about Irina's team previous project, which was The Legend of Lady Godiva, that I'm gonna link below, and the project they were currently working on, which was The Nightingale. I do not remember that many details of our interview because it was like 20 years ago or more, but I remember the feeling of it. And if I compare it to the evening that Lucy Pevensey spent at Mr. Thomas's little home, it would be very close to reality. And at one point in the conversation, Irina said, "Okay, why don't you have a look?" So I stepped on the stool next to the funny iron and glass contraption. She turned on the light, and I looked at the glass sheets from above, and I got lost. I got lost in the scene that opened to me. The pieces of colored paper arranged themselves and they turned into a garden. There were pomegranate trees and the fruits were glowing like little red lanterns. It was so alive and so real. And as in any heartbreak story, there should be a killer line, so Irina delivered the killer line. She said, "Oh, by the way, if you want, you can come to the studio and help us cut out the pieces for the movie." Oh, did I want to? Yes, of course, thank you, I will. Did I come back? No. No, I did not. And you can ask me, why? What's wrong with you? But the thing is that I was very young and insecure and did not believe in my skills. The problem is I did not even try. Did I regret it? Oh, hell yes. Yes. About a year later, I emailed Irina and I asked if coming to the studio was still a possibility, and I never got an answer. Maybe because she was too busy and didn't have the time to answer, and then she later forgot. Or maybe she did not believe that I was serious enough about this whole thing. There's no way of knowing it. Anyways, I gotta tell you that I did beat myself up for it for about a year. Yeah. Do I still regret it? No. When I'm thinking about it now, I think I know why it happened the way it did. Probably just because my priorities were lying elsewhere. So I was new at the job and I loved what I was doing. I was working very, very hard to grow professionally and to build a career. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm really grateful for that evening because that day I got one of the most valuable, if not the most valuable lessons on my art journey. Yes, and now I know how I want my art to feel. I want to create a world that is real and that you would wish you could walk into. At the same time, I want it to be a safe space for exploring your feelings that are real and are complex. And here is where the way of the crane comes in. So why crane? Because in my culture, a crane often appears in stories, songs, and rituals as a symbol of fertility and wisdom. It can represent an ancestor, a mystical protector, a giver of magical gifts, and it's also a bird that can travel to the other world and back. So that's the story. And now we finally get to the thing I want to do before I die. I tried to get back to Narnia, but it was no longer there. However, I can create my own world, the way I see it, the way of the crane. I know it's not going to happen overnight, but now that I know it, I have a meaning and a sense of purpose. So that's the story. But before you go, please tell me if you ever missed an opportunity and later regretted it. How do you feel about it now? Please drop your stories in the comments and be sure I'm going to read them all. If you are on your own creative journey or want to support me on mine, please subscribe to the channel. Let's walk our paths together. I meet you on the way of the crane.